Zatanna's dark secret revealed. Comic recap. Inside a crowded, hazy room filled with partygoers, Zatanna sits at a table looking dazed. A weird party, she thinks to herself, pressing a bottle to her head. She glances down at the cards in her hand, a full house of queens, and wonders, so what do I do? 10 years ago, at a bustling party, a young Zatanna sits at a table dealing cards. A guy with a bowl cut asks, pick a card, any card. Another adds, gee, I don't know so many to choose from. Pick a card, dude. It's not that difficult. John Constantine, standing nearby, smoking a cigarette, confidently declares, hearts. The game continues and someone calls out, okay, Queen of Hearts for trench coat. Another partygoer chimes in, all right, trench coat, where's your queen? Zatanna looks up, a sly smirk on her face, and points at herself. Here. The party erupts in chaos as a giant playing card, the Jack of Hearts, flips in the air. Akare, trench coat's feeling confident, Zatanna says with a smirk. A guy mutters, nice trick, weirdo. Another agrees, right, so stupid. Suddenly, Zatanna's double is lying on the table, clearly drunk, saying, I'm drunk. Constantine replies dryly, yes, you are. A nearby girl, also a duplicate of Zatanna, mumbles, what a card. Another Zatanna asks Constantine, who are you? Constantine, lighting his cigarette, retorts, the Jack of Hearts, obviously. The party is winding down, bodies strewn everywhere. Zatanna, lying on a makeshift bed, sleepily asks, you're watching me while I sleep. Constantine, sitting nearby, replies, you snore. Another version of Zatanna, more alert, confronts him. Who are you? Constantine, looking annoyed, replies, I think I already answered that question. As he offers his jacket to Zatanna as a blanket, she says, thanks for the blanket. He replies, anytime. Zatanna then asks, what's your name? Constantine replies, Constantine, but you can call me John. He then asks, you want to go get some chow? Zatanna smiles and says, yeah, I do. Back in the present, inside the ruined diner, John and Zatanna crouch down, trying to stay out of the way of the magical crossfire. You want to get out of here? John asks. Zatanna responds with a simple, what? In another corner, another version of Zatanna and John stand protected by a golden shield. John says, hold on, and Zatanna asks, what are you doing? As the magical battle rages, the first character casts an ice spell, freezing the rabbit-themed opponents. Much better, he says. Zatanna asks, you all do this a lot, this freezing thing? John, unfazed, nonchalantly smokes a cigarette as Zatanna comments, seems rude. John retorts, well, I couldn't hear a thing while they were fighting. Could you? Finally, the second John ends the scene by saying, don't worry, they'll be fine. The diner is in disarray. Zatanna, concerned, says, she thinks I killed someone. John replies, the stranger. Yeah, you didn't. Zatanna sighs. Feels like a good time for a little break. As she picks up her top hat, John tells her, you kept the hat, don't read too much into it. Top hats are expensive, don't I know it? Zatanna puts on the hat, looks determined, and says, okay, yeah, let's get out of here. With a flourish, John casts a spell and creates a portal. The rabbit enemy suddenly vanishes in a puff of smoke, and the other character, looking around, exclaims, where did they go? Back in Paris, Zatanna emerges onto a balcony overlooking the city, the Eiffel Tower rising in the distance. She pauses, taking in the sight, and wonders aloud, okay, is this? Inside the room, John says, you always wanted to go to Paris. Zatanna remarks, everyone wants to go to Paris, as John adds, and now you're here. Elsewhere, a bottle of champagne is uncorked with a loud pop. On the balcony, Zatanna muses, you were a very interesting boyfriend, John Constantine. John replies, you don't know half of it. Finally, holding a champagne flute, Zatanna reflects, you ever have one of those days when your entire traumatic childhood is called into question, and even though it's already in shreds gets ripped apart by people who want to accuse you of doing even more horrible things? And then some bunnies tell you you're a powerful wizard. She then states, I don't think you're a wizard per se. Zatanna and John stand close together on the balcony. It's been a really bad day, Zatanna says. John replies, sounds bad. Zatanna smiles and softly says, I did always want to go to Paris. John smiles back and says, I know. They lean in and share a tender kiss. Back at the ruined diner, the character with the glowing glasses, now even more intense, shouts, Constantine, are you so surprised? The rabbit-themed character, sitting amidst a group of rabbits, retorts, seems like you casters have accumulated a lot of meddlers in your affairs. The first character argues, you're in the habit of letting killers go free. The rabbit-themed character responds, "That seems to be more your department. Zatanna is a threat." Behind them, a shadowy figure looms. In a close-up, the first character adds, "She's not, and you know it." The rabbit-themed character says, "But she is more powerful than any of your fellow casters can imagine. They know exactly how powerful she is, and so does he," before trailing off. The first character finishes the thought, "What they fear has already begun, and nothing they do can stop it." Only she, as the first character, prepares to attack. A burst of light erupts from their glasses, and they cry out, "Oh God!" A portal appears, and they dive through, chanting, "EKATMKCAB." With a blink, the rabbit-themed character points and commands, "Find her." Then, changing their command, they say, "Find them both." Amidst a RMMBBLE of falling debris, a voice booms, "Where is the stranger?" Someone else nearby cries, "We raised the alarm. She should be here." With a resounding crash, the ground collapses, and the characters fall into the darkness. Zatanna sighs, idly twisting a strand of her hair. "I mean, shouldn't people who practice magic be wiser, or just easier to get along with? It feels like the history of magic is full of terrible people with weird rules that didn't even stop horrible things from happening." Turning to John, who's lying next to her, she asks, "Anyway, are we going to get a French breakfast?" John asks, "What's a French breakfast?" Zatanna replies, "I don't know, French toast. Duck." John then responds, "Sure." John adds, "I wouldn't worry about any of that other stuff, by the way." John then adds, "It won't be a problem for much longer." Zatanna's eyes narrow and she asks, "What does that mean?" John replies, "They're all about to die." Zatanna, wrapped in a sheet, rises from the bed and asks, "So, French toast?" John replies, "Food." Zatanna, growing more serious, asks, "What are you talking about?" John then says, "Who's dying?" John then responds, "First the casters, then anyone who practices magic, I imagine." To which Zatanna responds, "Why are you not freaking out?" John replies, "Not us, obviously, because we're in Paris. We're safe for now." He adds, "Not a fan of freaking out in general." Zatanna says, "And you do know them. How do you know them?" John replies, "You don't know these people, Zatanna. This is a good thing." John replies, "None of this matters." And Zatanna asks, "What doesn't matter?" "Constantine," Zatanna says, agitated. "You can't save them." John replies, "And you shouldn't want to." Zatanna, staring intently at John, asks, "What aren't you telling me?" John, lighting a cigarette, says, "This was years ago. A little more than 10 years ago. I was doing more freelance back then." John is told, "She will be in her 20s. Our people have a location for you." John acknowledges that he got it. He is warned that, whatever took place that night, Zatanna disappeared seems to have drained her of any magical ability, but if you sense any re-emerging powers, any ability whatsoever, you must act preventatively. Back in the bedroom, Zatanna lies asleep as John sits nearby. He thinks, "They sent me to kill you. They wanted to be sure you weren't him or working with him." Zatanna stirs in her sleep and says, "I knew you weren't." John abruptly gets up and leaves the room as Zatanna thinks, "So I left." The final image is a close-up of a box with a purple ribbon and some cards tucked into it with the text, "You left on my birthday." Back in the present, Zatanna and John are sitting up, about to have breakfast. Zatanna is putting on a shirt, while John is sitting shirtless in bed, eating a croissant. John tells Zatanna, "You're a threat because no one can explain you, Zatanna. The first theory was that you were actually powerful enough as a little girl to kill your father, but then another darker theory started working its way through the rumor mill." Zatanna observes, "You're not talking. I guess I shouldn't be surprised." Then she thinks to herself, "I should have known." Never mind. What was the darker rumor?" John responds, "I'm assuming the bunnies told you about the transfer of power thing. All magic practitioners are obsessed with it." The scene explodes with chaotic imagery as a voice narrates. It's the most dangerous act. The voice continues, "To steal